Good day, fellow Neverwinter players. If you find any of this information useful, or if you have critiques of information shared here, please hit me up on Twitch. That's www.twitch.tv/Lord_Willow_. In today's video, I plan to talk about why much of the old gear is currently better than new Mod 16 gear, how you as a player can assess at an individual item level which piece of gear is probably going to be better without having to become a math major, and finally, what the Neverwinter dev team could do to bring new gear up to par with or even better than the old gear selections. Before I get started into the meat of the topic, I do want to make a call to Jane of Neverwinter. Much of the theory crafting work in the community would be much harder or would not happen without Jane's extensive research work surrounding damage formulas deployed in game. If you are serious about theory crafting or squeezing the most out of your character, I strongly suggest Googling Neverwinter Jane damage formula. Jane is spelled Janne. Now to the good stuff. So why is much of the prior to Mod 16 gear better for DPS? The short answer is basic math. Much of the old gear has percent-based damage bonuses. Some individual pieces of gear have as much as 3% bonus damage. Let's say that you are a melee ranger, so you're doing DPS, or maybe you're a barbarian DPS. If you were to equip, say, the Spygelm helm or, say, the Protege's helm, the Furred Kiono the Bear, the Fearbringers, the Heels of Fury, the Shadowstalker +5, the Shadowstalker +4, and, say, like the Ebony Stained Raid shirt, right? You equip those items, you can expect to get 21.5% bonus to your at-will and encounter powers while you are within 25 feet of your target and your stamina bar is above 75%, and you are in the Undermountain content. 21.5%. If we add the Demolord set, if we add the Demon Lord set in, which will run off, let's round that off. Let's round that off to 9.5% overall damage. Obviously, towards the bottom, you're getting closer to 20. Towards the top, you're doing less. So we round that off to 9.5%. So you're talking about an increase in damage over the course of the fight of about 31%. An average of 31% increase in damage they are getting nearly full time. If we minus off the new gear, so your shirt and your headpiece, you're still looking at 23%. The only fluctuation you would see on that is a few percent less when your stamina is low, and a few percent in either direction based on your hit point ratio due to the Demon Lord set. So let's talk about finding ways to get 23% more damage without those damage bonuses from gear. Let's assume that you as a player are meeting your cap values for armor penetration and accuracy. And like most players, you're well over cap on crit. You're probably very easily meeting crit, right? Without even trying. So let's start with some basic guidelines around getting to that 23%. First, we can only get that extra percent from your chests. Your chest, your arms, your feet, your rings, and your neck, belt, and one artifact. Anything else we replace, we could just replace it and get that damage anyway, right? And we want that extra 23% to be near full time, like this existing gear. That really leaves us with power, right? Crit severity, and combat advantage. Well, we can cross off crit severity. None of the gear pieces that we can replace this with will give us any sort of crit severity. So let's go to combat advantage. Without getting deep in the math, we need to remember that combat advantage is not a full-time stat, but it is the one stat that is 100% effectiveness caps. But the way the damage formula works, Having 100% combat advantage does not mean you are doubling your damage. It's actually much lower. You can see from this character that I only have 12,000 more points I can put into combat advantage to even cap it off. Uh, let's say for the sake of argument, 4 of these pieces, and I replace all these pieces with new gear, and let's say each piece of gear ends up giving me 0.25%. So that's 0.25% more damage, and from about half the gear. You're not going to be able to get combat advantage in all the gear. That's going to add up to about 1% more damage from combat advantage. So let's say we take that 1%, we're going to run with it. We have 22% left to make up. Again, while combat advantage will help you do more damage, you probably wouldn't notice that 1% difference without having a huge sample set and the help of a log and a parsing engine like the active combat tracker. That leaves just power. By now, everyone has heard that 1000 power is equal to 1% more damage. Wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. 1000 power is equal to 1% more base damage. Remember that the damage bonus gear is applying its gains at the end of your damage, not at the start. So let's say you have 100,000 power right now and you want to increase your actual damage dealt to a target by 3%. Because of where the power bonus is calculated, you would need to increase your power by 6,000 points. So to get that 1% damage increase, you'd need to increase your power by 6,000. If you're starting at 150,000 and you want to increase by 3%, you would need to increase your power by 7,500 points to get that 1% more damage. So how much power would you need to add to increase by 22%? So if we're looking at 100,000 power, you would need to add 44,000 more power. If you're starting at 150,000 power, you would need to add 55,000 more power. And if you're starting at 200,000 power, which some people are that are running this percent base damage, this percent base gear, you would need to add 66,000 more power to add 22% damage. So to replace your, the gear that you're using to replace all this percent base gear, right? You need to add 66,000 power if you're sitting at 200,000 power. So let's say you have this gear on your melee DPS character and you want to replace this old gear. You want to replace your Furred Kimono the Bear, your Fearbringers, your Heels of Fury, your Shadowstalker +5, Shadowstalker +4, and the Demon Lord set, and you currently have 150,000 power. At the face value, the items used to replace this need to give you 55,000 more power. So let's look at some gear items. The Shadowstalker rings here, they don't give power. They give armor and combat advantage, right? But there are new rings out there, the Ebonized rings, that give 3% bonus damage and they do stack. So let's equip those, right? Now we can subtract 6%. Those rings, by the way, also do not give power, right? So we're not adding any power yet. So now we're down to 16%. We need to make up 16%. Because your power hasn't changed, we only need to squeeze out 44,000 extra power out of our remaining pieces of gear, right? If your starting point is lower at, say, 100,000, then you only need about 32,000 power. And if your starting point of your power was closer to 200,000, then you would need to find a way to add about 48,000 more power. Remember that you can't use any of the other gear to add power. Adding power by other means just makes those percent gains that much better. Knowing the power amount you need to climb, the fact that no combination of gear you will use to replace the current gear can close the gap, and the fact that the item bonuses on the highest item level gears are at best lackluster for DPS, it's no wonder that the percent gain gear continue to be best in slot. In a previous live stream, developers, specifically Astrodal, have stated that the highest gear, specifically the successor gear, should be the best in slot gear for DPS classes. So what can the game developers do to mend this situation? Possible solution number 1, add power stat points. All of the level 80 gear, including the successor gear, could have a whole lot of power stats added to them. The level 80 neck, belt, and artifact item sets should all get about 15% to 20% power bonus, or at least 20,000 extra raw power points. Added to them as a set bonus, if you were to add those as a set bonus in order to just be competitive with the ancient and long overdue for retirement Demon Lord set. As a player, I think this is the solution that makes the most sense to me. And it fits more thematically with the changes that went live with Mod 16 and helps create a clear path of progression for new players. So, solution number 2, let's just add the same damage bonuses to the new gear as the old gear. Let's give percent damage bonuses to some of this new gear. Let's put that on successor gear. This means items like the successor chest piece would have an extra percent damage bonus, like the furred Kyono bear. The demo set bonus would be copied onto a new higher stat set. I mean, let's be honest though, it's not a viable solution. It brings the same problems as the previous mod and lays the foundation for gear either not being updated or a gear arms race, which at the end will put mod 20 at the same place as mod 15. So solution number 3, they could take a nerf back to the older gear. As a player, I really don't like this option. Far too many people have invested in this gear. Taking a nerf back to that gear will stir a nest of angry hornets, and at best, the game will lose players. This really leaves the game development team in a delicate position. They should know by now that there are some serious number crunchers in the community, so anything less than the same or better will be called out. But they also need to manage power creep, as well as live with the knowledge that any nerf to older items will result in player backlash, negative publicity, and ultimately a reduction to the player base. I don't have a crystal ball or a direct line to the development team, so I really can't predict which path will be taken. Only time will tell. Thank you for watching today's video, and I wish you all well. If you found any of this information valuable or have a critique, please hit me up on Twitch. That's www.twitch.tv/Lord_Willow_. Thank you very much.